This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
We're live on TV. Hello. I'm going to formally open up the Southampton Planning Board meeting for Wednesday, February 7th, 2024. We have all our members present. Dan LaValle, Stephen Johnson, Mark Darnold, and Paul Fergal has been excused. My name is Paul Deeman, the chairman. We have our consultant with us tonight, Richard Harris, who's here for some other items as well. But the first agenda item is a A&R that was requested by Paul and Darcy Trueheart for 27, they're on 27 College Highway, and the property address is 23 to 25 College Highway. And here to present for the Truehearts is Mark Reed from Heritage Engineering and Surveys. There is no fee required for this because the lots are already divided, but Mark will address that.
Evening.
Evening.
Hi. My name's Mark Reed from Heritage Land Surveying and Engineering, representing the Truehearts here tonight. The plan that we presented to the board is a conveyance of a 4,043 square foot piece out of the parcel known as 23 College Highway. And it's noted as the new parcel as B-09-2, and that is going to be incorporated with a larger parcel shown on the plan as parcel A-09, which has over 4.466 acres of land. So there is no change in the frontage. There's no change in setbacks to any buildings, and the only change is taking 4,000 square feet out of number 23 College Highway and adding it to 25 College Highway.
Is this, Mark, because of the easement, or is that got nothing to do with it?
No, so 23 is actually where the car wash sits. And when doing so, Mr. Trueheart wanted to prepare a easement for future utilities, if and when ever needed, that would go through. His house is on 27 at the bottom of the page there, and wanted a utility easement that would cross those two other parcels if you needed it in the future.
But you don't need to A&R for easements.
Right. Showing on a one plan.
Right. The A&R is only for the one parcel being added to the other parcel, but the showing easements is just supplementary information.
So there's a revised 30-foot wide access easement on 25, right?
25, correct.
Right.
Correct. So when you pull into the car wash, there's one curb cut that's shared by both 23 and 27, and it's accessed through that easement to loop around to the back of the car wash.
Any questions from the board members?
It seems straightforward.
Yep. Stephen?
No.
Jan? Good. Yes, sir?
No issues.
No other questions or concerns? I'll entertain a motion.
With approval that we endorse a plan of land and our plan of land for 23 and 25 and 27 College Highway.
And don't put approval in there, just endorse. Don't put approval in there, just endorse.
Endorse.
Oh, the motion is to endorse.
Yes.
And I seek your approval of the motion. I got a little twisted up in my words, but that's what I mean.
Motion.
Motion was made by Stephen and seconded by Mark. Any other further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Okay. 400.
How's it done? Because I'll be right back up.
Thank you, Mark.
I gotta say, Southampton is generous. As Mark knows, in South Hadley, there'd be application fee for A&R, even if we're not creating any new lots.
They'll catch up with them at the registry.
Don't go anywhere, Mark.
Yeah, but we used to charge a fee than any additional lots, so.
All right, so let me see here.
Plans back.
Would you bring the other one down for me, please?
You want it back?
That's crazy.
I didn't know you kept your plans.
There's one for you. All right, let me find the other one here. Okay, thank you for your patience. All right, this A&R is submitted by Doris Hurd, 217 Pomeroy Meadow Road, and the property address is 217 Pomeroy Meadow Road. And Mark Reed, again, from Heritage Surveys and Engineering, is here to present, and I will make for the record, I am a direct abutter across the street from Ms. Hurd, but it will not affect my voting on this A&R, but in terms of being transparent, it's what it is. So, Mark,
Yes.
present.
Okay, thank you. Again, Mark Reed. This one does have a check, Richard, for $125. Mrs. Hurd is presenting this plan, or we are presenting this plan on the behalf of Mrs. Hurd, to create a new building lot on Palmer Meadow Road. And that building lot is shown on the plan as Lot 3R. It has 40,000 square feet, 40,005 square feet, and it has 140 feet of frontage on Palmer Meadow Road. The remaining land, where her house sits in the driveway that accesses her house, has 8.5 acres of land to it. The only issue with this that I can see is house numbers.
This one?
House numbers. Because currently Mrs. Hurd in her house in the back uses 217. And if you look at our maps, the abutting house to the left-hand side of the new lot
Courtney?
is 215.
Yep.
So there's not an extra number in there.
What's the number on the other side of 270?
So the other is 227. So there's a lot on the right-hand side but short on this one for an extra one. There is the ability of total of 3 lots on this piece of property. In the future, if she chooses to create another building lot with her house, she can do that. So really, ideally, this could have 3 house numbers associated with this piece of property. So I think the only thing, which I haven't really talked to her about, is that her house number is going to have to change because you want to be in sequence for 911 going down the road. You don't want to have to go from 215 to 218 to...
Was she aware of that?
No, I've got to talk to her about it. I just thought about it tonight.
Does the assessors or the post office frown on 217A letters?
I honestly don't know.
Again, this is not relevant to the A&R endorsement itself. It's the implications of it. But since there's plenty of numbers spaced on the other side, part of the simple, if I were advising the building commissioner or the assessor, I'd advise them to ask her to change her number to 219 or 221, something like that.
The trouble is the planning board assigns house numbers in Southampton.
Yeah, those would be the ones to assign.
You act on A&R lots, you do?
Yes.
Okay. I would suggest that you talk to your client, suggest that she change her number to...
Yes.
Right, well, we won't address that.
219.
We won't address that tonight, but you'll have to come back for it. But on the same token, check it out with her, but you're not crazy about letters?
Now, that tends to become a problem, especially when Mark says there's potential for 3 lots on this property.
But the one on the other side, on the right-hand side, that would be in sequence because it would be following with the other ones in line over there.
But you got 215, 217, then you got 227, you said?
You got some.
Yes, further.
You've got numbers in between.
Yeah. It's going to be a problem any way you cut it, but I would stay away from letters as much as possible. If she changed hers to 219, made this 2, or 221, made this 217, then you'd have some flexibility down the road to deal with that.
All right, well, we can deal with that down the road.
Right, and I'll speak to her about that, Paul.
But in terms of questions from the board on this at all, Mark?
I have one question. The leach field, and I know it's a raised bed there. I know DEP requires a 15-foot separation between property lines, and you have an approximate location and labeled as, 18 feet. I don't know if it's an issue or not.
No, so actually DEP Title V requires a 10-foot separation to property line to the actual leaching system.
Okay, not to the toe of...
Not to the toe of the slope.
Okay.
So, yeah, so that's the physical leaching system is 10.
Yeah, I should know that.
Well, you're retired now, Mark, so. But yeah, so there's ample room there.
Well, I have no questions.
Stephen?
It appears to meet the zoning requirements by the Barris smidge, and maybe it can be developed and accommodate all appropriate modern soil absorption systems for septic effluent and runoff.
The only consideration does have frontage.
I'm not a designer, so I move that we endorse the plan as submitted.
The only consideration is frontage and area to some degree. Yeah.
Motion made by Stevens. Do I hear
You
a
can't
second?
create landlocked lots, so you don't want the landowner to blunder into a hardship.
I will second.
Mark seconds. Motion made by Stephen, Mark second. Any other further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
I'll bring those over in the morning.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you. And let me know, keep me abreast of the,
Change, yes, I will do that.
and even if you have to check with assessors, I don't know what they're...
Yes, will do. Good night.
Thank you.
Night.
Take care, nice meeting you.
Next, we have another A&R. Let me get to that section.
May I check out another one?
Yeah, here, this is the small one, this is for this one.
That's why I bring my glasses. Let me get back to... There we go. All right, let me read this here. Okay, so this A&R this evening is the applicant is Jim Reedy. Is that pronounced right, Reedy?
Yes.
39 Cook Road. Property address is the same, 39 Cook Road. And presenting tonight, we've got the check for 125. And presenting tonight is Christian?
Christopher.
Christopher.
Yep.
From Pioneer Land Planning in Holyoke. So you have the floor.
Great. As mentioned, my name is Christopher Carney. I'm a land surveyor over at Pioneer Land Planning. I'm here tonight on behalf of Jim Reedy to seek endorsement of an approval not required division of land at 39 Cook Road. This was one parcel of land, and it will be divided generally in half to create one additional parcel of land, so the $125 filing fee has been submitted with this application. The parcels as divided contain sufficient area, and I guess I'll use lot width to conform to current zoning regulations. My review of the zoning bylaws don't require a set amount of frontage, so statutorily I believe 20 feet of frontage would be required for these lots, but nevertheless they have over the 175 feet of required width in Southampton. As you'll notice on the right side of the plan, south side of the plan, you'll see the town line, county line between Holyoke and Southampton with an additional 10 feet of frontage. That frontage wasn't considered as part of this A&R on the Form A. So as shown on the plan, you have 207 feet of frontage in Southampton for Lot 1 and 316 feet of frontage for the remaining land. Also shown on the plan are setbacks to show that the primary structure, well, somewhat conforms to current zoning regulations. As shown, it does not conform to the front setback requirement. It would be a pre-existing non-conforming structure, but no change in that structure is proposed as part of this plan. Also, you'll see the barn and garage and a pole barn, a pavilion type structure located in the rear of the properties. Those, the accessory structure setback would apply to those as listed on the plan. The accessory structure setback for the front would be 20 feet, which is definitely sufficient, and a side and rear yard setback of 10 feet. As shown on the plan, the pavilion would have 30 feet and 15 feet of setback, and the barn and garage would have 16 feet of distance between the proposed property line and the easternmost corner of the garage. So I think that's going to wrap up my presentation for this, but if you have any questions, please feel free.
Questions from the board?
I have a question on the Southampton Holyoke side of the property.
Yep.
Is there a building on the abutting property that's on the property line?
Yeah, it is very, very close to the property line. The overhang comes right up next to the property line, but it is not over the property line.
Okay.
I don't think it meets the setback in Holyoke.
I don't think it does either. But, you know, the pot calling the kettle black, it's probably a pre-existing non-conforming structure.
For sure.
I have a technical question. Because this crosses two town lines, is there some unique aspect of the A&R that is associated with being located in two towns?
Technically, to divide the property, they need endorsement by both towns. Because you can't divide property in Holyoke without Holyoke's approval, we can divide property in Southampton, that's Southampton. This is not a big issue because in this case, all the frontage is still in Southampton.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with another community, I'm dealing with someone wants to A&R and all of the frontage is in the adjoining town.
Those are 10 feet?
Different, with different frontage requirements.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a big issue with this.
I have no issue with it, I just wanted to technical process.
Do you have to present to Holyoke?
I wasn't intending to present in Holyoke because there's no division of land proposed in the city of Holyoke.
Yeah, you just only need that one strip.
Yeah, and with no proposed lot lines that would affect that parcel.
Yeah.
It's not changing when it's already there, so.
Correct.
While you're here, are you looking for I assume, a street number?
A street number would be great, and
Did you have one in mind?
I believe Cook Road is numbered from north to south, and this being lot number 39, and the one lot further south, any odd number above 39 would make sense, and it will be the last number in this town of Southampton.
I always recommend you provide at least one additional space, so go from 39 to 43 at least.
43 or 45?
45 would be best.
Any opinion?
45?
I like 45.
45.
Given the size of properties, and I would go 45.
All right, so I'll make a note of that too, 39 Cook Road. Address of number 45. Is there any other questions from the board? Steve?
No.
Oh, Dan? No. I'll entertain a motion then from someone?
I'll entertain a motion to approve the A&R for 39 Cook Road as presented.
Do I have a second?
I would like to propose an amendment that we not approve the A&R, but that we endorse the A&R. And I would approve that motion.
You would approve the endorsement? Yes. Got all that, Dan? Yeah, I got it.
Count that as a second. And
Yeah. I just corrected that.
continuing the ribbon.
Motion made and seconded. Any other further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And also, I'll have a motion that we assign, because they can send this over to assessors, they have to fill out a different paper for that, address number 45 Cook Road. Okay? All right, now, I can't bring these to you in the morning, but I can sign them tonight. Unless you have a Sharpie or not.
Didn't hurt too much.
You carry a Sharpie?
A nice number.
And there you go.
There you go.
Do you not require Mylar copies anymore? You don't require Mylars?
I just didn't pack one tonight. I just didn't pack one. Although this will probably work, it doesn't matter, it's just not the ideal.
The question is whether or not the registry will accept it, that's,
The registry only accepts Mylars, correct?
yeah.
Yeah. That's what I thought. I have a whole variety of pens in the car. I can.
Does anybody have a Sharpie with them? I just don't want it to...
He's keeping close eye on all these copies,
I
so I'm going to return that right away.
Smear, that's all. That looks like it'll be all right, I guess. I gotta have four of these, at least. Did Stephen still got his down there?
What's going on?
Do you still have any of these?
No, man, I gave it back, I promise.
I thought he might, Chris might have taken one.
These are 8.5.
Does he have any on his chair? No?
No, he took one and he gave it back.
You put one up here.
Oh, he's asking for yours.
This little piece of paper?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were asking for a big map. Apologies. Thank you, Steve.
All of a sudden, Paul is going,
Is that okay? Hey, I mean,
Yeah, we can't leave these lunches.
no, I just didn't want it to smudge.
As long as it doesn't smear.
So I can keep all of the small ones, I hope.
Yes, of course, if you'd like. Yeah. I don't know if Jim would want one either, but.
Oh, let me mark on this.
Well, this is back, I know this is in, Myla is.
Oh my goodness, what's that all about?
That's in Granby. Another town.
Oh, shoot. Is that not two there? All right, well, they're old. I have it in the car.
You signed Granby.
I signed Granby's for you.
We'll send to build the Granby.
Many hats.
Okay, while we're waiting. Committee reports. Any committee reports from any other committees that we're on and want to report any activity?
I think the one thing to bring up is we wanted to meet with that Soul Smart company sometime in the new year. So I don't know if we have a scheduled meeting coming up that I could ask them to attend or.
Well, we're going to be meeting again on the 20th, so.
Okay.
Because I know there's another A&R coming in for that night.
You mean the 21st?
Is today the 8th?
7th.
7, 10, 17?
14 plus 7 is 21.
First and third.
Today's 7th, so you add 14 to it, you're going to be being on the 21st.
This higher man.
don't press our consultant, and don't pay him to keep the calendar.
17th?
He's correct.
Today's the 7th, so add 14 days to it, that's going to be February 27, 21.
Oh, yeah.
I was beginning to think I failed math.
No, but I was, what the hell, I was print out another one of this Granby one.
Yeah, God bless Mylar, I might just walk right off.
All right. There you go. Thank you so much. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you need a copy for town records or not? No?
I've got the small ones in. If I happen to need, if the assessors want a big one, I'll get back to you. All right, so we'll put Soul Smart on for the 21st. Do you want me to contact him, Dan? Sure. Any other committee reports from anything?
Well, I'm not sure what hook to use for this, but Zero College Highway is the topic.
Yeah, I had that, I was going to ask if you wanted to just give a synopsis of what's going on there.
Yeah.
Or what the plan is.
We were all present or viewed afterwards the board's meeting. And if I might fast forward, assuming that you've absorbed all of this, that there are 3 parcels that total 56.3 acres, includes 11 acres to the east of the Greenway. It is predominantly identified as natural heritage, priority habitat of rare species, and rare wildlife. And a good third of it is wetlands. So 11 acres on the east side of the Greenway is in fact a conservation opportunity. It looks to me like it doesn't provide any leeway in development. It's not going to be useful even for a stormwater infiltration pond because of the permitting that you'd have to go through. But right there at the bottom of the hill is the Greenway. We'll come back to that. From the Greenway, you go up fairly good grade for, I should have this off the top of my head, for 20 feet? Is that right?
More than that.
More than that, 40 feet maybe. 200 here, what are we up to?
Well, this is
80 feet.
That's 150 feet right there.
This is 200.
Oh, you're talking about vertical elevation.
So the elevation break as you leave the Greenway and a small terrace or interval along the Greenway. Then you go up pretty steeply, better part of 100 feet in elevation before you get to what you see from the roadway, which is practically full table flat. And what Mark has told us is that the soil survey, and in fact soil diggings up here, show excessively drained soil, which is mostly good. Yes, it's mostly good. The slopes with those sorts of soils, I think, are a big question mark in terms of how you could design along those slopes. And I'm not critiquing the prior development proposal. The problem with the joint boards meeting is we had the wrong sheets from a prior development proposal that didn't give us a clean slate. What is the property that is for sale today? Okay, so I wanted to go over that because despite the clean map, there is persistent confusion about acreage and location. And so while the top is highly developable, and that relates to the public safety building interest in a donated piece, and then perhaps a purchased piece in front of it to have their own owned access directly to Route 10. So the public safety building is pursuing this offer from the landowner of a gift of part and the sale of what, in their mind, remember, no development plan's been approved, no road layout, except for Route 10. A commercial lot, what plausibly would be permittable as a commercial lot on Route 10. So, the Public Safety Building Committee has funds, and they're pursuing due diligence on that specific piece. There is great reluctance to spend any money on due diligence for the rest of the parcel because lack of authority. Somebody's got to step up to the plate and say, we have $7,500 and we have $7,500 and we need to analyze the full parcel because that unlocks many possibilities that going piecewise in response to a proposal from the seller just doesn't offer us. We would pay retail for the commercial lot that doesn't exist, even considering the gift of perhaps the lot where the building would be built.
Without getting into a lot of technicalities, because it's such in the infancy, the main...
You say infancy, the urgency is...
Infancy and urgency, but I'm saying there's no...
Town meeting.
But what I got out of that meeting after reviewing the video was that the town now is going to consider buying the entire parcel for possibly a future school. There's a possibility of the senior center, and we already know the safety complex. All the while remaining some of that storefronts being on the commercial side to be developed for commercial or mixed-use property if sewer ever gets down there. So without any technical things about the land, the proposal is pretty much that. They're either going to accept it for the safety complex alone, or they may consider the entire parcel for future development on other fronts, correct?
There's one small twist, though. The donated portion for the safety complex is internal, has no legal frontage.
Right.
So part of the safety building committee's idea is to purchase at least an access way
Exactly.
to provide legal frontage.
Yep.
To make that a
Correct.
isolated lot, so make it a legal frontage.
But I understood that the landowners are willing to do that for that frontage that they seek. If the town doesn't want to buy the rest of it, then that'll be
Correct.
probably developed in a different way.
I don't know that a price has been agreed.
Not yet, no.
Have they,
And it would require, town meeting vote to acquire the property and all of that.
well, town also has to go through Chapter 30B for procurement, for purchase of property, which means you can't just say we're going to buy this property, you got to advertise, make a solicitation of interest to buy property, and then take proposals from property owners.
There's a uniqueness work around 30B, and you've got to do it right.
Yeah, I mean, we did that with the library project in South Hadley. We knew the property we wanted, but we made solicitations, and we actually got a couple solicitations we didn't anticipate. They still made determination this one they located was the best location, but you got to do that process.
So the timelines need to be managed by someone, and we're about to say goodbye to our town administrator and hello to a new one, who I'm quite excited to welcome here, but it's not apparent to me that he has much real estate experience. And I'm panicked, I'll be honest, because the landowner's expectation is that we will support whatever the parcel at town meeting and appropriate money to buy something from them. And Paul, I think you summarized the visioning for the balance of the property, but it was without grounding about where the parcels are, how wet they are, what's left that has development, and the compatibility of different uses side by side.
I was under
You didn't mention housing, and I feel strongly that housing has to have a seat at this table. And again, who represents housing in this town at this time?
I was under the impression...
There we go.
I was under the impression, though, that one of the concepts that they came up with was, on some very preliminary meetings we had when they were discussing that site, was housing. So I was under the assumption they had already done their homework when it came to soils down there, if they were proposing a housing development of quite a few units, that they had already done that due diligence on their own.
But they were having trouble with the affordable
Yeah.
the affordable units.
But not with I didn't hear anything at that meeting that there was any issues with soil or anything of that nature.
Preliminary plan, but, well, actually, it was concept plans. The only preliminary plan was actually submitted was the subdivision road.
With the roadway.
Right, but the rest of it was just concepts that were thrown out there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hope for...
The abutters were quite concerned about the loading factor of that amount of density on that property. And I think that we are exploring high density on that property because of the context and the purpose that it can serve in the community. So it's great that we have highly porous soils. It sucks that they're on a slope where they fall down and fail. It's wonderful that we have wetlands and wildlife at the bottom. We can embrace that, but we can't dump our effluent down. So it's a puzzle that is fun and totally solvable, but somebody's got to put the pieces on the table and start putting them together. My question of you, Mr. Chair, what amount of money do we have in our consulting budget vis-a-vis our expectations for the balance of the year? Are we running ahead or behind?
We're very tight, very tight. I have ARPA funds that can only be used for more zoning revisions that Richard's probably going to be talking about here going on, but we're tight, very tight.
What does that mean? Another 20,000?
I might have, without looking right now, we might have a little less than 10,000 to work with on our own, maybe less. Because I'm not afforded, and haven't been in many, many years, a budget. I don't get any money. It's all derived from funds that we take in. And that pot has slowly gone down.
Well, I didn't know how you forecasted Mr. Harris's time and
Yeah,
amount
that has a
to
cap,
carry
yeah,
us.
that has a cap on it, yeah. Right.
Well, of course it does, but if we don't have business, and we've gone several rounds where we canceled the meeting for lack of business, I'm new. I'm sorry to be dragging you into a treasurer's conversation. It's a question. Where are we on the consultant's budget?
I would not offer anything, maybe a couple of $1,000s at best.
Okay.
Because otherwise I'm not guaranteed. I put in for...
Let's posit that there's no money in the planning board budget. Let's try and solve the puzzle. CPA is one possibility. They weren't clear that there was anything but a housing possibility here. And out of the previously appropriated administrative funds, they might be able to do it without further approval, but for select board. They don't have very much money either, but that's one pocket. I'm looking for every pocket I can find.
Has the town expended all of its ARPA funds?
Yeah. Sometimes the Concom has an open space fund. I do not believe that's the case.
You suggesting to there's some funds to do some conceptual feasibility studies of the utilization of the parcel? Is that what you're looking for? I'm just
So I think that there are two halves to this. There's the piece that we, the citizens, and the citizens' elected representatives have to own. We design it with some help. We at least figure out what the program, the desired program is. If it's a school, it's mostly nothing else because of the school board assistance program guidelines. We'll have to check what they require for a minimum lot size. Minimum usable lot size and how many playing fields. No, I think what we need is an appraisal of the property so we can get into a rational conversation with the seller about a purchase price.
Yes.
Because it's going to be far different than the assessed valuation. For all, please, we don't need to go into that. We need an appraisal so that we can justify the price to ourselves and to the voters. Where the money comes from to fund that is the puzzle that I am so eager to start solving. But between state requirements under 30B that set timelines of notice and perhaps also opportunity for other people to suggest 54-acre properties that would serve all these things. We do need to do our process of these interests coming together and saying, well, if we could, I'm sorry, I'm going to back up a minute. I just came, the reason I'm all jacked up is I just came from the Easthampton City Council meeting, where the City Council approved $600,000 of CPA funds for affordable housing to be done in conjunction with open space conservation at number 385 Main Street, very close to the Southampton border. The development of nearly 90 units of affordable housing, all affordable, not mixed income, will be in 10 acres adjacent to Route 10. And the bulk of the field you see behind and the woods that run down to conservation land along the Manhan River in both Easthampton and Southampton across the river, they got $600,000 CPA money for affordable housing land value as they begin that acquisition process. It'll play out over several years. Who's an indispensable partner in that one? The land trust, because they're going to execute the transaction. They have the experience and credibility to do that, and they're a public charity. They can be trusted within the guidelines of state and municipal law. The other partner is the community builders, a nonprofit affordable housing builder who built the elderly housing project immediately adjacent. They're getting great synergy in 100 different ways, including being just steps from the Greenway. Oh, the Greenway. I wanted to come back to the Greenway. Paul, I blanched when you said, what about running an extension of sewer line from here to there and join in with Easthampton? It's better than a mile to this parcel and maybe a mile and a half or more to this property. Yesterday, the Board of Health asked that the Select Board explore the feasibility of doing exactly that because of failed systems in this neighborhood. So there are pieces, somebody's just got to keep the pieces. And I volunteer, but I don't want to force this on people. It's a process of talking to enough people that vision begins to sift and those adjacency things. I've done this a dozen times as director of land trusts at Sudbury Valley Trustees, just in metropolitan Boston, and at Gallatin Valley Land Trust in the city of Bozeman, Montana, where we're doing city trails and city parks as well as 10,000 acres of ranch land. And as a national land trust, working with very high-end developers who are trying to do ecologically sensitive development. So you're sorting out how all the infrastructure goes in a way that respects the environment and returns a good yield to the investor. The town, as an investor, wants to get a good yield. The public safety building has got good prospects. I think that there's the possibility of tremendous leverage going with the whole property and serving several needs. The Community Preservation Act in this town, or committee in this town, has already in their designated housing fund over $400,000. And aside from doing something with single-family residences at exorbitant rates, the land purchase in concert with a nonprofit developer who comes in to do that specialty piece could be a very, very desirable element of this. So, yeah, I have a graduate degree in planning from MIT, and I have 40 years of doing conservation with development as kind of a niche that's made me some enemies on both sides of the table. End of speech. We don't have money to spend on it. Tell me to get out of the way or I'm going to charge ahead.
I assume the select board doesn't have any funds for consultant services or or neither does DPW.
Did you hear?
Yeah.
Glimmers?
There's no funds. The select board we don't have any budget, so. I guess the question is there anything as the planning board we can do to help?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And the strongest idea is the idea that CPA could fund the appraisal on the basis that part of the acquisition of the entire site is going to be in part for affordable housing.
Right. And quite possibly for conservation.
Right. Yeah, I think
And
combination.
it would not be out of the designated funds because that would require further action.
Right, yeah.
It would only be out of the administrative funds, and even that's to be considered.
Yeah.
So do we need a motion to go to the CPA to request the funds? No.
No, that's...
Well, the CPA, I mean, you have to appropriate the money, it has to be voted on by the town before they can expend it, and, are we looking to try to get this answered prior to town meeting?
In all cases except for their administrative account.
Right.
And that's what the sellers have said, and that's been accepted by the negotiating team on behalf of the town. That we are expected to bring our proposal to town meeting this spring. Now, I don't think the negotiations have gone many rounds. I can understand that goal, of course. We should have that goal, but it might not hold.
I think the,
Well, what more can we add to this as a planning board? I mean, a lot of this is out of our,
Who's got the contract with Ty and Bond for the Greenway engineering? The town, or is there somebody who's doing the care and feeding of that engineer?
who's on the Greenway Committee?
Okay, I'll pursue that. Because that is a directive that's coming to the select board to consider the feasibility of tying in the sewer connection. So Paul, thank you for planting the seed. Audacious, but
Well, you don't know unless you ask, I guess, but it was presented to me by a well-known source to inquire about it, whether it's doable or not, it's another thing.
Well, that's where Easthampton's main is, as I understand it. They
Yeah.
brought it down the Greenway as far as Womelco Way and tied in but that's where their interceptor line runs.
That time.
Thank you for the information. Mark, you got anything on public safety or anything that you want to report? Outside of what Stephen?
I mean, most of it is
This is the Greenway
related to the
Committee.
Zero College Highway that would be relative to the planning board. I'm trying to think what's in relation to the planning board's survey.
Yeah.
The other thing I've got to update you on, the Attorney General's office, who had the E-code and the warrant we had on the last town meeting for the change of College Highway up the other end there from industrial to commercial. That's been languishing, and part of it was my fault on a posting that I never gave, or I thought I had given to Lucy, because we had two hearings that night. We had a stormwater hearing, and we had the hearing on College Highway Commercial Zone. And I knew the legal postings were done adequately, the mailing to the abutters were done. It was just the letter, she couldn't find it, so I had to dig through paper, and I found it, and she finally found her copy, but it was because there was two hearings on one night that she didn't submit it to the Attorney General's office, but in fact it did exist. So long story short, they finally approved the College Highway Commercial Zone change, so that has been approved. They asked for a 45-day extension on the zoning bylaws, the E-code, the codification and the changes. Now, Richard said they must be busy or something, but they're going through that obviously with a fine-tooth comb because there's several changes there, as you know. So we won't know. It'll be almost a year if they do that, from a year of the town meeting getting that approved, so that's still in the works.
I was telling Paul that another community got a approval of recodification of the zoning bylaw in November without any comments at all from AG's office. That never happens. And I was talking to the consultant about it, and she said their guess is that eastern part of the state has the MBTA zoning requirements that have been passed, and they've got to make a lot of changes there, and that the AG's office is going through those with a fine-tooth comb because they have statutory deadlines for the communities to get things done, approved, and in place. And so the speculation is what we're going to see is either quick approval of bylaw amendments or a spec request from AG office for additional time. And so I think we may be seeing more additional time, maybe a much slower process than we've ever had in the past.
So that's that update. Latest, Eversource finally contacted me, not them, but their representative, regarding what the procedure was to file for scenic roadway to do work on it. So I referred that to Richard because there's nothing in our zoning bylaws about any process to go through. It's state-related, and Richard pulled out the state regs on it with a letter that he wrote about what the process has got to be, so I just forwarded it to them. So the ball's in their court now to...
You couldn't make it clear that their proposal is just antithetical to the designation?
No. And since you don't have a scenic bylaw here, scenic road bylaw here, that spells out requirements, you basically default to the state requirements. And the state law doesn't define what a tree is. So when they identify trees Do they have to identify every 1-inch in diameter tree or just 6-inch diameter trees? You look back at the Public Shade Tree Law, Chapter 87, it provides that no one except the tree warden or the agent may cut a tree less than 1/2 inch in diameter.
Less than 1/2 inch.
1.5 inch. In diameter, which tells you that when they say tree, they mean any tree in a scenic roadway right of way. My suggestion would be that if the trees are real dense, they identify the area of the trees they're going to cut and give a very detailed description of them. The reason being is otherwise what you got to do is kind of tag each one, and that doesn't make any sense. Or survey each one, that doesn't make any sense.
We can't say, for this purpose, we mean trees greater than 12 inch.
If you had a local bylaw or local regulations on that, you could, but you don't.
Isn't that amazing how many years passed now? I mean, when they started designating roads in this town, scenic roadways, and there's several of them, and there wasn't anything on the books to define what any criteria was for that?
And
Nothing.
It's time to re-record all of those decisions under the current statute and provide some process, because, God bless him, goodbye, there is a dominant personality in town who says, if it was challenged, it would fail because blah, blah, blah. It wasn't done.
And there's some communities that require a better notification of the property that, and I said, you can't do that because the right-of-way is the property. It's not, there's a benefiting property that you can require notification of abutters for the benefiting, but you can't require notification of all the abutters to the right-of-way. That would be, I mean, if you got a 5-mile-long road through town, you notify everybody on all 5 miles. I don't think so.
We heard some complaint about Russellville Road, a designated scenic road in town, designated from Red Brook all the way down to the Westfield line, several miles. And if you go down there, you can see very well that they cleared back and they took the short pole and twinned up the tall pole, and up on the tall pole is the 3-phase power. And it made quite a difference on Russellville Road. The town resident asked, did that ever go through the scenic road process? And how would it be administered for a 5-mile-long stretch?
And yeah, and most work within scenic roadway is for a driveway or for a service line for a house. That's the most common.
Oh, application under this. Yeah.
A utility company come along to clear trees along a vast stretch of scenic road is not the most common thing. Usually it's bits and pieces they do. But if you have, one of the interesting aspects is state law says municipalities, essentially if you adopt a local bylaw, you can create penalties for violating. But there is no penalty for violating state law, the state law, scenic road law.
Don't ask, don't tell, right?
The idea, I guess, is you're supposed to catch them before they do it. And the other aspect is, if the tree is already cut, then the tree warden doesn't need to hold a hearing on it. Because the tree warden only has to hold a hearing on trees to be cut.
I mean, one of the penalties could be, if there's something like that happened, is to replant trees, correct?
Absolutely. You could create a fine penalty. You could create a requirement that, hey, plant X number of trees to compensate for it, or make a contribution to a tree planting fund that town then use wherever
Right,
it.
which is, I'm going to segue right into your priority list, and is that going to be one of them too?
No, because that's not zoning.
So that has to be a general, right?
Yeah, that'd be a general bylaw.
So, general bylaws to your select board committee or whomever, and
I would,
tell them, put that on their list.
and the
next
planning
time they
board
do it.
could draft a general bylaw on scenic roads and propose it.
It's outside the zoning?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a general bylaw. If you make it a zoning bylaw, one of the issues with that is you then have a lot of exemptions. For instance, churches would be exempt. Agriculture uses would be exempt. Schools would be, make it a general bylaw, nobody gets exempt unless you specify. What I did was
While we're talking about exemptions, I'm sorry to drag us back to Zero College. If the town bought the whole thing, the town is itself exempt from zoning.
No.
No.
No. Not unless the zoning bylaw specifically exempts the town. Municipalities are subject to zoning unless their zoning ordinance or bylaw exempts them from it. And I always tell communities, do not exempt yourself from
No.
zoning.
Right. But I thought that was.
It's a bad practice.
Thank you.
What I did is I looked through notes we had.
The town wants to circumvent our zoning?
For good and valid reasons,
I've always felt that the town, municipalities should be held to a higher standard than developers.
Yes.
Practice what you preach.
There you go.
It would be a higher standard that doesn't fit within the Euclidean zoning. And that's what Easthampton is doing at 385 Main Street. It's going to have to be a friendly 40B because it doesn't fit. So steel yourself. Of course, if it's a 40B, it goes to the zoning board of appeals, so we get out from under that, right? Okay, to your priorities, sir.
I went through the notes we had from 3 years ago and look at Larry's information from long ago than that. And when we get the E-code, we need to recognize there's at least 2 new members who weren't here when the board reviewed it. So I think the very first task we need to do is review the E-code so everybody becomes familiar with what essentially is a new zoning bylaw. But also I want to go back and look at the notes we had on the old bylaw and be sure all those issues have been addressed. And where they haven't been addressed, let's flag them. And in the table of uses, I want to be sure that they made all the changes that we asked, because it was kind of convoluted between the different versions they had, and I want to be sure that that got done correctly. If not, that would be an amendment we'll be proposing. And I think it's a really good opportunity, given the fact that we have 2 new members, for everybody to become familiar with what's effectively the new zoning bylaw.
It could be costly for us. Rehash it all over again.
I'm not saying rehash it. I'm going through my notes. I'm presenting to you what I find, and then, as I mentioned to you, so it's going to be very focused from my perspective, but I think it'd be a good opportunity for the board individually to go through it very thoroughly and be sure and raise any questions you have about why is this in here, or this doesn't make any sense to me, stuff like that. Clarify the site plan review, site plan approval dichotomy, and correct it. What you have right now in the zoning bylaw is site plan review is a term that's used for approval of one category of projects, and site plan approval for another category of projects. Site plan approval is the final stage of a site plan review process. So the dichotomy needs to be corrected and made into a minor site plan review and a major site plan review, but not this site plan review, site plan approval dichotomy. That's confusing to everybody. In fact, when we did the agricultural voltaic, they said, yeah, there's a question they had, the attorney said, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I said, no, it doesn't. Yep. And that's going to focus on Article 9, which is site plan review, but also on the solar generation and table of use regulations. We want to be sure that gets corrected there. Revise, update the solar generation provisions. This is probably should be a high priority. Again, you got the dichotomy to correct, but also one aspect we need to look at is the thresholds of review and also battery energy storage systems. Those are rapidly gaining traction around the state. I understand the AG's office has opined that they are under the Dover Amendment, Chapter 48, Section 3 exemption for solar, and therefore only subject to reasonable regulation. And it's questionable what reasonable regulation is.
Batteries under Dover? That seems strange.
The battery energy storage systems are for solar systems. But if you have a solar, if you have a solar generation system in place, like we do for the agrivoltaic, they have on site a battery energy storage system that's accessory to that use. Yep. But what's happening to meet the state's need or the state's goal for solar, you have these companies creating freestanding, standalone battery energy storage systems
for load management.
So that they can get the generation in one place and keep it where it needs to be done. I'm working in the community now that they best developer filed a request for a determination by the building commissioner. He said no, it's not allowed. So they have filed an appeal with the ZBA on the grounds that it is a distribution system under warehouse and industrial use. We met with them.
It's a stretch.
A week and a half ago. Actually, when you read the zoning bylaw, it's not so much of a stretch because their zoning bylaw mentions distribution for utilities as well. So we met with them a week and a half ago, and they're not wanting to be confrontational. They filed the ZBA appeal to protect their rights. We're working with them to develop a bylaw for that community.
Good.
And there's other examples around the state that we can draw from. And they have since, they said they would, and they did. They said they would submit a request to continue the ZBA hearing for a couple months, basically to see if we develop this bylaw and have it ready for town meeting in May. But the building commission in that town said in another community he got a letter from that community, the AG's office threw out their restriction on battery energy storage systems because it was too restrictive. So we have to be careful with it, but I do think given the growth and interest in it, it's best to proceed sooner rather than later and try to incorporate it into our solar bylaw.
So I understand what it is, but I have no idea what the impact of having such, what are the
major concern people,
safety and welfare issues?
The major concern people have is the alleged fire potential.
Fire.
Especially in the water supply protection district. And therefore you may, because of you don't put water on it, you don't put foam on to put it out, you want to suffocate it.
Yeah.
Blankets.
And the way these are structured is, imagine tractor trailers. and you may have 4 to 8 of them in one area. There's redundancies built within them, so that within one of those tractor trailers, you may have a dozen storage systems. And within they're designed so that they should not be able to leapfrog from one to another within it. But if it does spread to another one, the trailer itself or the container should be self-contained, and they can then remove it off-site and put it in an area and let it burn itself out. The worst thing you can do is try to put water or foam on it. They said that doesn't work. That makes it worse. So that's the biggest concern. There's some concern about noise, and they submit information about that because it's got some noise generation to it. They said, we're not going to lie, it does create noise. It's more than an air conditioner, especially when considered the size of it. So we need to take a look at those factors. And that gets into what size of parcel. And what we're looking at there is not so much size of parcel, but size of the pad. So, like with solar generation systems, you rate them small, 10K or less, 10K to 250. With battery energy storage systems, that doesn't really say anything, but rather pad size does. Is a compound 5,000 square feet or 10,000 square feet? If it's a utility size system, it's probably going to be acres. All right, that's going to definitely be a large. But we kind of decided like maybe in a medium size would be a 10,000 square foot pad compound, which would serve roughly 8 to 12 of these trailers. That wouldn't be utility size, that is more than the residential size. You very likely already have battery energy storage systems in town, in residences that are electric vehicle charging. For instance, that they may very well have those already. And one thing we talked to this other firm, and they were very receptive to it. Said, what about any successful applicant providing at their expense a training session for the emergency public safety response team for the plan? They said, we have no problem with that. We want them to be well trained so they don't make a mistake when they come and put the wrong thing on here. So I think that's something that those are the major factors. They don't disturb as much land as you have for a solar system because it's 10,000 square feet. It's a pretty good size, not 5, 10, 15 acres. Right. But I think
Why
that is...
do you think 5, 10, 15 acres is not possibly in our future?
That would be a utility size, and that could very well be in those. As I said, a utility size might be in the 5 to 6 acres because of the quantity they have. Now, you may want them being on a site that's 15 acres, provide buffer area, stuff like that. But like on the 10,000 square foot pad, that might be a 2-acre site, provide sufficient buffer, and it depends on the development area it's in. Is it in an industrial area? And if it's in a water supply protection area, a containment system. So that if there is a fire or failure, and what I'd like to do is if we have somebody out here who wants to develop these, as we develop these, we develop bylaw, have them provide some explanation and education. The information they gave us there is proprietary, so I can't share it with everybody, only with folks there. But I think that is something that we really need to take more aggressive step towards, so we don't get in a situation that XYZ Corporation comes out and says, oh, we want to do a battery energy storage system, and you allow solar systems in your residential A district, so we want to put it right there next to Dan's house. We want to be sure we have some regulation in place that's reasonable, not overbearing, and there's questions whether or not requiring a special permit is unreasonable. Because special permits are discretionary, and therefore there's a general belief that that would be an unreasonable requirement. Site plan review is not discretionary, it's more administrative. You have some discretion there, but you can't use site plan review for the purpose of denying the use. Is how you regulate the development of the use.
Very good, interesting.
Okay. We should look at, and I'm looking at the bylaw, there shouldn't be in the zoning bylaw, as a general rule, detailed plan submittal requirements. Those should be in your rules and regulations. So I'm going to go through and be sure we pull all those out, unless there's something that is unique in there that needs to be addressed. And what I would generally do is still take them out, but say in the planning board rules and regulations, they must address X, Y, and Z. So those points are addressed in rules and regulations. And the reason for that is we've all seen bylaws that were written 20 years ago that reference Mass Highway Department. Or, let's see, what was the predecessor to DCR? But no, you see those references, and
MDC.
you say, no, what we need to do is put those on rules and regulations so things change. Or you add, this is very common, plans must be submitted on Mylar or parchment. Okay? Well, yeah, back in the 1970s, 80s, you traced in paper, you did all those. But if you have new rules and regulations, and you want to go to PDF, electronic submissions, and hey, just give us 2 copies of your paper copies, you can do that in your rules and regulations. I always advise boards, have a public hearing on amendments to your rules and regulations, just so you get public input, but you can adopt them that way as opposed to having to go to the town meeting.
So policies, procedures, rules, and regulations is public hearing?
I recommend it. You don't have to do it, but I recommend it just because it's the right thing to do. Some don't always agree with me, but...
Okay, and then supply?
Next one would be to complete the revision of the rules and regulations to reflect the changes. Water Supply Protection District, that should be addressed by the PVPC in their DOTA project.
Right, now,
And we need to be cognizant of their work and provide input to their...
now, I have not received any notification of being awarded it.
That was my question.
I thought we were notified. I will email Ken.
Because I looked, I was going through some paperwork today, and I found the application that was signed, that you had developed, the copy, and I said, and that was dated back in December. And I said,
Yeah.
never heard a thing.
I'll email Ken.
Because they usually let us know in January.
Yeah. Okay, let me find out about that.
Maybe we didn't get it.
Yeah.
So
I'd be shocked.
he would take the lead in designing this work?
Yes. I'd be shocked since we wrote that based upon their direction and,
Well, they didn't do anything for us last year, because they did something for us the year before. Sometimes they kind of like go every other year. They typically don't hit us 2 years in a row sometimes.
yeah, when I was planning director in South Hadley, we'd be at the Valley Development Council meetings and at PVPC, and Larry would be saying, and we're doing a DOTA request project for South Hadley, and people look, and you say, yes, this is the third or fourth year in a row, because this building and everything they've done before, they've followed through with what we did, and Larry and I worked to make sure that we had a structure to each successive work on it.
Speaking of which, the Housing Partnership Housing Authority, is it Sierra?
Yes.
She contacted me a month ago and says, we're interested in doing information regarding a 40R. And she was unaware of the study that was done back in 2008, 2010, something like that. That was when I was first on the board. And I contacted Ken and I asked him to see if he could dig up the report, which he did. And it was quite extensive and well done. Ken Comia. Ken Comia from the Pioneer Valley, he's our rep. But the bottom line was that the 40R had recommendations for the gateway where Big Y Plaza is, in that district. It did not do anything further into Midtown over here where Paisanos is and stuff, because the lack of sewer really was the key component to it, period. But that section over there with Red Rock Shops and Big Y area, because of the possibility of tying in with Easthampton, was where most of the work was focused on. So I sent her the entire packet, which was, as I said, it was extensive. I wasn't going to print it out. I think it was like 80 pages.
I don't know how familiar everybody is with 40R, but essentially it's a program in the state where you can create a special zoning district that allows, by right, single family at 8 units per acre, 2 and 3 family, I think at 12 units per acre, and multifamily at 20 units per acre. That's the minimum. That's not the maximum. So consequently, if you don't have sewer, you're not going to make those numbers work. South Hadley has 2 of those districts. We got 1 project approved, and honestly now they're going to break ground this fall after about 4 years of trying to get funding. But it's a very nice program. Communities get paid incentive payment from the state when they create one and gets adopted by town meeting. And that it's how much incentive payment depends on how many units could theoretically be added. For instance, you take, in doing that, you take your zoning and look at how many units are allowed by right there, and then how many would be allowed by the 40R at 20 units per acre. So if you've got a business A1, like South Hadley had, which does not any residential, and you got 10 acres, that's 200 units in theory you could add. So depends number of those units. South Hadley got $350,000 incentive payment for each district. That can be used any way you want to use it locally. The last funds had to be used for capital project, but the way the state defines capital is pretty broad. We used it for engineering and stuff and property acquisition. And then for each unit that gets CO'd, you get an additional education incentive payment. Now, it depends upon whether it's rental or owner-occupied. Generally looking at 20% or more of the units have to be affordable to low and moderate income under a deed covenant. So it's a nice program that can be worked very well. Some communities have been gangbusters with it, and I think they're probably gangbusters where the market's already driving everything wild anyway. But it can also help in trying to meet your 40B target. But again, sewer is essential when you look at those type densities.
Would you be interested in getting a copy of that? I can electronically send it over if you want to look at it. That's
Sure.
I think you'd be interested. It's interesting. And I was talking about the Big Y and the Red Rock Complex, but the area, the scope of the study area went as far as west as the Gielaher property there.
Yeah, okay.
And that's on both sides of the road. It ended just before the Manhattan River crosses. So you've got both sides of the road there, and there's some acreage in there, on both sides, that if the town engaged with Easthampton and there was work there, then there's some possibilities in that corridor. So given that we're waiting on the E-code and we want to get going on some of these things, because I had to cancel a couple of meetings because of no agenda, so we can get some work done, would you want to start on the site plan? Is that how you've got them in order of priority, or where do you want to start with that? Or do you want to go right to solar?
I would go straight to the battery and storage system,
Right.
pending the approval of the E-code.
Yeah.
Because that's going to change some of the other stuff.
Then let's get started on that, and we'll work out a time frame where we can start
Okay.
editing that and get that in works. Some of this possibly we could have ready for town meeting in May, or no?
Now, I'm the opinion they'd be rushing it, especially if we haven't had any preliminary meetings on energy storage systems already. But we can see what we can come up with, but I would not expect for May. I would expect more for the fall.
Would you guys want to jump right into the solar? Is that important enough to start right there?
I think it's important to work on, but I worry that we haven't set enough public education. I mean, I can see it.
I'd be more inclined for a fall town meeting than I would for a May town meeting.
You didn't mention EMF, but I imagine that comes up in every one of these siting situations.
Yeah.
Haven't heard that term in a while. This seemed like it was a hot topic for
Or
a
do you
while.
want to put that off, or do you think it needs
I
to be
wouldn't let
started
them
right
draw
away?
attention.
I would start on it and start on the battery and storage system, and then when we get the E-code, then we can start incorporating into it fall.
Then I'll wait to hear from you and what your time frame is to get started, because this stuff will still be under the ARPA funds we've got left. I think we've got maybe $7,500 left. That has to be, does ARPA funds have to be expended by the end of this fiscal? Or is it
It'd be
20?
contract by the end of this year.
25?
Yeah, but we are trying to figure out, as the select board, what is likely not going to get spent.
Yeah.
So to reprogram it, because there are many needs. Conversely, if we have a need and not enough ARPA money, you should let that be known.
It's my understanding that ARPA funds have to be contracted by the end of December 2024. And if they're not contracted by then they get turned back.
Okay.
And you have to December 2026 to actually spend those that are under contract.
Oh, gotcha.
But, yeah, I would encourage select board to, by this June at the latest, have an accounting of what's going to be spent and what's not, and it's not on contract, not spent. Consider that money be transferred, that has to be contract by the end of the year.
Yeah.
You all set on your end?
Yeah.
All right, I only have one warrant, and that's going to be payable to me. I have $175.83. I have the postal service for priority mail. I had to mail the decisions that were after the appeal period down to Boston, to Blue Wave, both the stormwater and the agrivoltaic. Then both things, these two others are related to our planning board laptop, the Carbonite backup software contract, $95.99 a year, and then the Microsoft subscription, $69.99, so it's a total of $175.83. Motion?
Yes.
Stephen, second?
Me?
Dan? You all in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
What's the percentage we get?
Other than that, I have nothing else. If anyone else does, speak up or make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah. Motion to adjourn? We want to second it? Thank you.
Second on that.
I believe I
All in
heard it
favor?
pass.
We got
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.